Hello, and welcome to Peabody TV's 15 Minutes of Fame. I'm Jacky Ankeles. The program features people on the North Shore with an interesting hobby or skill or who've accomplished something unusual. It's fun to be able to share local people's stories with you and to recognize some of the special things that they do. So today we're going to meet Mike and Ellen Garvey. We'll head over to Swampscott and catch up with them in their backyard. They are beekeepers. Well, that's just what we're going to check out today. Both Ellen and Mike have a number of interests and hobbies, especially since they retired. Ellen was a software engineer for Cisco, and Mike was chief technical officer at Microchip in Beverly. Worked there for many years. But the bees are taking center stage today. And we'll see the hives and hear a little about what Mike and Ellen do as beekeepers. So, let's go. Well, hi, Ellen. Hi, Mike. Where did you get your interest in bees?
My father kept bees.
Oh, he did?
Briefly, I had bees at Duke when I was there in the physics program with a fellow physics major. And then when we moved to Massachusetts, my day job took dominance there, and so I had to put it aside for a few decades.
Okay.
And then I picked it up again after I retired.
I see. And Ellen, Mike obviously kind of inherited an interest in bees. Where did you learn beekeeping, or how do you study beekeeping?
Well, I learned mostly from him. I had to help. Again, it's something, sometimes you need 4 hands or 6 hands. So I sometimes help, or a pair of eyes if you're looking for a specific thing.
Mike, what have you got here on your property? How many hives, how many colonies?
So I went into winter with 4 colonies and I came out with 4, which I'm quite proud of. Last count, I have 12 colonies.
They don't hibernate, do they?
No.
Is that a myth?
There are 3 things you need for bees to get through winter.
Okay.
They need enough food. That's sort of obvious. They need to be dry. Cold is not an issue. They need to be dry, and they need to be healthy.
Okay.
And those 3 things will usually get them through winter.
And there need to be enough bees.
Oh, are we going to be able to get Stefan into a suit here?
Yes.
We are.
Yes. There we go.
That's over your head.
I can't see. Oh.
There you go.
Okay. What are we seeing here? Can you just point out what's happening?
We see a number of bees here that are guard bees, protecting the entrance. We see occasionally a bee will arrive with a load of pollen on her legs. The pollen can be all different colors, but the bees are flower specific. When they go out for pollen gathering, they stay with the same flower for the whole visit. And you can see how that would be important for pollination. If they moved from one flower species to another, they'd serve no pollination role. So pollen is a source of protein for bees. Honey is a carbohydrate, and they need that as fuel for flying. So once a bee reaches adulthood and they're out foraging, really all they need is honey. Most beekeepers work very hard in the spring to manage swarming. Bees in the spring like to reproduce in the sense of not making more bees, but making another colony. And the process there is called swarming. This is the entrance that the bees in this box are using at the moment. It's part of my swarm strategy.
Okay.
And this little door allows me to direct how they have access. So 70% of your bees in a hive leave, and they leave with the old queen, and they look for a new home, and they set up the new home. There have been 4 swarms this year, 3 of which we caught. 1 I caught in what's called a bait hive. So you set up an attractive home. You wait for a swarm to settle in.
Okay. How do you make the hives attractive so that the bees will use them?
Color doesn't matter. Hole size, the first order, doesn't really matter. South facing is important. The size of the box is important.
Okay.
And interestingly, you can see shopping. A few bees will show up, and I see it now. Scout bees coming to check it out. So this is the typical Langstroth hive. The first thing is the outer cover. Then there's inner cover. And the first box that we're going to see is a honey super. They typically will start in the middle. They'll fill the comb, and then they'll cap the comb. For honey, we use a smaller box, mostly because of the weight of the honey. So here we see comb that has not yet been capped. They're beginning to cap this side of it. You can see there's one cell there that's capped.
Wow.
So here we see one that's fully capped.
Yes. Wow.
So the honey, when they bring the nectar in, it has to dry out to get to the right amount of sugar. And they know what that is. And honey, which has been properly prepared, doesn't ever go bad.
Doesn't ferment.
They've found it in Egyptian tombs. And they don't close it off, that is, cap it, until the moisture is correct. So as long as the beekeeper waits until they've properly capped it, then you know that you've got something that will last forever.
And so at some point I'll inspect a box, which I do by simply taking them off and putting them on bathroom scales.
Oh.
And I know when they reach about 48 or 49 pounds,
That's it.
they're ready.
Okay.
40-pound box of honey, you get about 35 pounds of liquid honey. So the basic steps, we have to remove that wax cap, which we do with a hot cutting knife, and we do that on both sides. And then we place the frame in a drum, which allows us to spin the frame centrifugally.
Okay.
And the honey drains from the cells because of the centrifugal force. Generally speaking, the honey that we get here in the spring is lighter.
Okay.
And it's more floral. Later in the year, in the fall, the honey is darker.
Oh, yes.
And it can be different shades of dark.
Now I want to just taste it.
Sure. The best way to do that, we found, is we use a piece of pasta, which is, one use.
Okay.
And inexpensive and disposable.
And biodegradable.
And
Right.
you dip it out and twirl it because it's going to drip.
Okay. Mmm. Mmm. Oh, delicious. Now, which honey was that? That was the...
So this of the
That's
three that we
the
have
darkest.
is the darkest.
Okay.
So if you were to ask me, well, which month of the fall, I can't say. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to remove the honey super, and we'll have access to the box where the bees raise their brood.
So this grid here is what's called a queen excluder. Queen is slightly bigger than the worker bees. She can't get through, but they can. And that's why this has only honey. It has no baby bees, because you don't want that with your honey.
We only use this during honey collection season. So down here, these are the deeper frames.
Oh.
This is a drone. He's a big male bee. His head is covered with eyes so that he can see the queen when they're out for her mating flights. The coloration that you see here is pollen. So this is a frame on which they're storing pollen. This side, there's honey up here, which they've capped off. There's pollen in here. And there aren't any baby bees in this frame because it's near the edge. The development of a bee, as with many insects, starts with an egg. It's 21 days between the time the egg is laid and the 3rd day it hatches to be a larva. On the 10th day, it's covered with a cap and enters the pupa phase. And then on the 21st day, the bees hatch.
Okay.
Put that down and turn over.
They emerge as nurse bees, we call them. They have housekeeping chores. They feed the larvae. It's mostly work inside the hive for the first week, 10 days, sometimes 2 weeks of a bee's life.
Oh.
Here we see more brood, more pollen. Sometimes they raise new queens in cells that look like that. I don't see anything there at the moment. Here's the queen. We're lucky. We don't always get to see that.
So
She's a female bee. She has been mated with drones. She mates with multiple drones, which is a genetic diversity strategy. She stores the sperm, and when she lays an egg, if she chooses to fertilize it, it becomes a worker bee. If she doesn't fertilize it, it becomes a male bee. We were lucky to see her.
Okay.
She must have known we were coming.
Okay. And what would you say is the best source for studying beekeeping?
We're members of the Essex County Beekeepers Association,
Okay.
which is a very active club. And every year the club runs a, we call it bee school, but I realize I should really call it a school for beekeeping because it's not a business school. It starts in February, runs for 9 weeks, 2-3 hours a week. And the students that come, we first tell them this is the equipment you need. They order bees, and by the time the school finishes, their bees are coming in and they're ready to go. Keeping bees is a local thing, largely. Plus, one of the benefits of the school is you can hook up with one of the seasoned beekeepers as a mentor.
As a mentor.
Because when sometimes the bees don't do what the book says or don't look like what the book says, and having someone you can call or they can come over, or you can send them pictures and get a diagnosis on what's going on and suggestions of what to do next.
Okay.
One of the reasons why going to the school is really important is people say, what are my odds of getting mites? The answer is 100%.
Oh, wow. Yes.
What are the odds that I need to treat them? 100%. So part of what we do at the school is to make sure that the people in Essex County and around are raising their bees responsibly. Because if they don't, they're going to lose their bees, but they're going to cause us to lose our bees.
Okay.
Mites are the biggest threat to bees today.
Okay. So how can you help them?
You control the mites. If a colony escapes in a swarm and settles in a tree and doesn't have a beekeeper to help them manage the mites, their probability of making it through the winter is about 20%, and their probability of making it through the following summer is probably 0.
This has been an incredible experience, I must say. Very enlightening. I've learned a lot. This is incredible stuff, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Our
having us.
pleasure.
And that's going to wrap up this edition of Peabody TV's 15 Minutes of Fame. I'm Jacky Ankeles, and be sure you join us next time to find out who gets to enjoy 15 minutes of fame.
And if you know someone on the North Shore who has an interesting hobby, skill, or accomplishment, we'd love to hear from you. Just go to peabodytv.org/15 minutes.